Hello, welcome, happy Thursday, and happy New Year to everyone watching. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season and excited to get started with your applications. Thank you for joining, those of us who are watching, those who are watching the replay, welcome as well. A brief intro about myself. So I am, for those who do not know me, I am the founder of C Admissions, which is a boutique admission coaching firm focused on supporting young, ambitious applicants who are targeting top 20 business schools. Every week on Thursday, I host a 30-minute live session where we talk about different topics related to the MBA admission process. So if you are new to this channel and you are going through this process, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. If you have friends who are going through this process, share this content with them, because there's always new content and new insights that they can gain, and it's all free. So it can be helpful for those going through the application process. So with that, why don't we get started? Today's topic, we're going to talk about why should someone hire a coach, essentially. And we're focusing primarily on the deferred MBA applicants, but this is somewhat true across the board as far as who needs a coach, who doesn't need a coach, and what can you expect from a coach, those types of questions that we continuously receive. So as usual, I have put together a few slides that I'm going to run through. And as I mentioned, I am the founder of C Admissions. I have been doing this for the past 8 years. And I support young, ambitious individuals who are going through the application process and want to differentiate themselves, want to share their unique perspective, and need a coach to help them navigate that process. Because as you may look at the questions from business school admission essays, essentially, you may think, oh, this is a very straightforward question to respond to, but there is more layers and nuances that can help one tell a story if they are strategic around it. So that's essentially what I do, and I have a 94% placement rate, which means 94% of my clients gain admission to at least one of their target institutions. So for today, I'm going to discuss a little bit, briefly touch on the deferred MBA journey, although I do have a video on this topic that goes through the process of the MBA, it's through the deferred MBA admission process. So I encourage you to watch that after this session. It's a longer video, and you can gain a lot of insights there. But I want to touch, just to anchor this discussion, I want to touch on that briefly. What are some of the things that you need to keep in mind as you're going through this process? Then we're going to dive into essentially why should you consider working with a coach, who should and should not hire a coach, and what can a coach provide? I think that's an important question to understand, or an important insight to understand, and what you should be looking for if you decide that you want to work with a coach. What are some of the things that you should be looking for in a coach? And then we're going to jump into Q&A. We have received questions in advance of this through the registration form. So if we don't have any questions live, we'll move into the questions that have come through the form. So let's get started. So the deferred MBA journey. You want to really start early, although at this point it's not really early because applications are due the first week of April, and you really want to start now to get your materials and put together a strategic plan. You want to give yourself time to reflect on your experiences and your goals. I know for this particular group of candidates, you are, in college or in a master's program, and I'm sure you are used to pulling all-nighters for tests and essay writing and those kinds of things. I strongly discourage taking this application process with that approach in mind, just because it does require reflection and it does require time to craft and refine before you submit. These are a little bit higher stakes than just an essay for a class. And of course, you want to give yourself time to seek feedback and have the time to think through your revisions, to really capture who it is that you are, what it is that you want the admission committee to receive or to read in the material that you are sharing with them. So keep in mind the timing. So know for every one of the schools that you are applying to, what their deadlines are, what you need to do. So if you're taking the test, if you haven't sat for the GMAT or the GRE, you want to make sure that you plan that out. The application preparation. So what are the components of each of your school's application? What do they require? You want to really, one, have a clear plan, and two, have a mapped out plan as to when are you going to start each component, and making sure that you're maximizing this period. You also want to look at your workload and other commitments. So you are most likely, as a deferred candidate, you are taking classes, you're a full-time student. Perhaps you're doing an internship or an externship during this period of time. You are applying for jobs. All the other commitments that you have beyond the application, you want to map that out as well, because everyone only has 24 hours in a day. So you really want to make sure that you give yourself ample time. Now, if it means that you have a very heavy workload, this means that you have to be even more strategic in your approach as far as blocking time to work on your application. And don't leave it until later, just because you will recognize as you go through this process how challenging it is to craft an essay that is reflective of who you are, and you want to give yourself time. So it's better to have a heavier load early and then have time to think and refine later than it is to leave things for later. And then you want to also evaluate, do you need a coach? If you look at all the things that you have to work through, how much time do you have? What do you need? And then if you decide that you need a coach, you also need to recognize that a coach will also need time to get to know you, to help you craft your materials. So what does a coach do and what do they not do? So when you think about a coach, you want to remember that they're your strategic advisor. They're going to provide guidance, they're going to provide feedback, and they're going to provide suggestions on how you can improve things, how you can approach conversations, how you can approach your responses. They're the individuals that can provide accountability, meaning that you say that you're going to do something by a certain time. They're going to follow up with you on that. They're also going to help you map out a plan of action so that you can maximize output in this period, help you brainstorm, give you insider knowledge that will help shorten the process of the work that you need to do. And sometimes you will just recognize all the things that you need to do that you haven't thought about. But all of these are components that are supposed to help you in crafting a stronger narrative. What do they not do? They're not your ghostwriters. They're not writing essays for you. They're not writing materials for you. They're also not magicians. So they can't make things appear that are not there. They can't tell stories if you haven't shared them, right? And they can't bend space and time. So they can't give you more time if you haven't started crafting the materials. We can't change your experiences. They are what they are. And like I said, we can't read your mind. We cannot, if you don't communicate with your coach, they can't really help you if you're not really sharing experiences. And of course, a coach cannot guarantee admission. Admission is something that it goes beyond you, the individual. It's who you are competing with, your stats that no one can change, your academic performance. It can't be changed at this point, especially if you're applying this year. So those are components that will affect your application. And of course, the experiences that you've had and how you're sharing all of those components, the coach is going to guide you through presenting and elevating your candidacy, but guaranteed admission. If someone guarantees your admission, you should run, because there's no, in an ethical way, no one's going to guarantee admission. So who should hire a coach? Typically, a coach is really great for non-traditional backgrounds, for international students who need support to understand the nuances of the culture, those with technical training. And I say that because I oftentimes see individuals who come with a technically heavy background and are looking to secure an MBA have a harder time communicating in a way the admission team is expecting of them. So those individuals can definitely benefit from a coach. And then those also seeking maximum output in this process. You're going to, a coach can really help you elevate your game, essentially. Who should not hire a coach? So applicant with strong application skills, someone who can really tell their story effectively. They don't need a coach in that process. Applicants who have tight deadlines. A coach, like I mentioned earlier, is not a magician. They can't make things appear if they're not there. And also, remember, a coach is getting to know you for the first time. So they do not have your full story. If you are on a tight deadline, a coach can't really help you with developing your story, with helping you brainstorm in those components, especially if the application is in 2 weeks' time. So candidate with a strong support network may not need a coach either, because they're individuals who have a lot of people around them that have gone through this process and can support along. And then also those applicants who are just putting in an application. A coach, and I can speak from my own self, if an applicant is not taking the application process serious, I really don't want to work with someone like that, because I am invested in the application process of all my clients. And if a coach doesn't want to take your application more seriously than you take your own application, and this is really also just a waste of money. So don't do it. Don't hire a coach if you're not fully invested in this process. So what can a coach provide? So a coach can provide an individualized strategic plan for you, your goals, your applications, the schools that you're targeting, etc. Can provide holistic profile enhancement, which means that they can really help you not only look at how you're answering this one question that the school is asking, but also help you think about your profile as an entire living, breathing thing, from the perspective of how you're telling your story to the admission team and what the admission team is going to perceive reading all the different components of your application. They can help you navigate challenges and weaknesses in your profile, how to go about addressing those, how to go about taking action towards those, and can provide insider insight into the admission process, into what the schools are looking for, and really sometimes also be your cheerleader in this process, because it is a very intensive process to go through. It's a little bit draining, especially because we haven't been taught to think about our experiences in the way that the application process requires you to think about your experiences. So what you should look for in a coach, obviously experience and expertise. Is this someone who will know how to navigate the application process, how to coach you along the way? You want someone who has a proven curriculum, meaning that there are steps that you have to follow along the way in the process, and customized approach that is really helping you navigate your own application in your own needs in relation to the application itself. And why these two are important is that you don't want to hire a coach, or I don't suggest hiring a coach that is going to wait for you to ask a question and does not give you guidance along the way, doesn't provide you with ideas on how you can go about what are some of the things that you should be working on now, and those kinds of things. Just because, if you're going through this process for the first time, you don't know what you don't know, and the coach is here to support you. The coach, you should be looking for someone who is going to give attention to the weaknesses and challenges in your application. So who is going to really be there and think about all the different ways that one can perceive the content that you're sharing, and someone who believes they can help you tell your story. If you say you want to apply to Harvard, for example, and the coach says, I don't think you have a chance, that means that the coach doesn't really believe in your story. And even if you have a great story, their investment is not going to be fully there for your application. So really look at someone who can, who believes in helping you tell your story. Now, Harvard and Stanford are very notoriously difficult to gain admission to. So you take that with a grain of salt, in the sense of like those particular schools. But overall, when you're working with a coach, you do want someone who is believing in your story. Someone also who should be giving you post-application support. That means with the interviews, that means with post-application submission, right? So your interviews are going to be really important. Someone who is going to help you navigate the offers that you have on hand, because as that's a really good problem to have, and from the perspective of, I have multiple offers, but you still need coaching. You still need to kind of think about which one are you going to say no to and which one are you going to say yes to, right? And at the end, you also want to check with your gut. What's your gut feeling with the person that you're working with? Are you compatible? I always tell this to clients that, I require at least 3 months to work with someone in the process, just because it does take a while to get to know the story and go through all the different components that we have to go through. And then there's going to be about 3 months after that. So you're working with someone for 6 months, and you want to make sure that there's a compatibility, that you guys see eye to eye in that process. So hopefully this helps you, one, think about the role of the coach. Do you need a coach? What you should be looking for, and so on. So I'm gonna stop sharing screens and move to the to questions. So just give me 1 second while I do that. Excellent. So if you have questions, write your question in the comment. We won't share it on the screen, so feel free to know that your question will be anonymous. We are on Instagram Live, and if you have questions there, I'm gonna just read them. Read them here. And if you want to have a conversation with me about coaching you in your application journey, and seeing if we are a good fit, please reach out. We do have a 30-minute complimentary consultation that gets essentially a conversation with me. We'll be talking about your profile, talking about what you're looking for, and seeing if we're a good match to proceed and work together. This is a two-way street, at least how I see it. And we, of course, both want to see if this is a good working relationship, and that's how it starts. Excellent. I also have the MBA application guidebook. It's a free guidebook that is on my website, siaadmissions.com. And if you're going through this process, that may be a good way to start your MBA journey. And maybe you are not ready to apply, but you're just doing your due diligence and your research. That's an excellent way to start, because it gives you quite a holistic view of some of the things that you need to keep in mind. And lastly, next week, our next week's session is on January 11th, and we are going to be discussing the MBA interviews. This is particularly for those individuals, for those MBA candidates who have applied to round 2 and are getting ready for their MBA interviews. this is that season, time of the year, and we'll start that conversation then. So if you are going through that process, please register for the event. The link is on the screen and in the comments as well. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get started with questions. Let's see what we have. Okay, so question that came from the registration. What roles does a consultant play in crafting a compelling application narrative? A consultant is going to essentially help you brainstorm what are some of the narratives you're going to use, how you're going to approach, or how you should approach your responses. As you write and as you refine, it's going to provide you with commentary on areas to improve, so that it can really help you craft what it is that you are trying to communicate in your application. This process should, one of the things that all of my clients talk about is how this process really helped them become better writers, better communicators, or written communicators. And this is what the coach is intended to do, is to help you really refine your thinking. If you are writing comment that or materials that contain jargon, a coach is going to flag that and tell you, this is insider knowledge that someone reading your application that doesn't understand your field may have a hard time understanding what it is you're trying to communicate. So that will really help you strengthen your communication, and then also think about why it is that you want what it is that you want. So if you're interested in a class, why is that class so important to you? And sometimes you may think it's evident. Obviously, I want, a tech class because I want to work in tech. But it may not be exactly that obvious to someone who is reading thousands of applications like yours who mention the same class. And what is it, about the class that interests you is what sets you apart. And the coach's job is to help you do exactly that, to help you think through your own reasonings as to why it is that you want what it is that you want. Excellent. Next question. What insight can a consultant offer about the admission committee's perspective? The consultant recognizes that a committee is made up of multiple people with various different backgrounds and perspectives. And a coach can really help you think about the perspectives that one can have in reading the material that you've put forward. So this means you may be looking at your own story from your own lens, which you should, because obviously this is your application. However, a coach can help you think about how someone outside of you may perceive this, may perceive what it is that you're writing. And then if you are in agreement, if that's what it is that you want to do, then of course it is your application and you can choose to proceed that way. But the coach is going to help you then look at the pros and cons, the risks associated with what it is that you are trying to communicate. And then you make the final call, of course, because it is your application. Excellent. Okay, so how often should I meet with a consultant or with a coach, and how much time should I allocate so I can maximize it? Every coach approaches things differently. I approach our conversations with clients based on the phases of their developments. So there's some phases that require a lot more discussions or a lot more frequent meetings than other phases. So for example, when you're writing your essays and we've done all the strategy work and the brainstorming sessions, then it's more, we're doing things offline. Whereas when we're doing the strategy discussions, finalizing your goals and those kinds of components, then we are going to have more frequent meetings. But know that there is for me at least, there is a curriculum that I go through, and each piece is building on the other. And the intent with that is that we're really building a house, right, from the ground up, and putting together, in helping you put together an application. And some areas require a lot of a lot of discussions, and others not as much. Communication is still happening. It's just offline, meaning you're sending materials for review, and you're getting feedback, and we're going back and forth that way. So can a consultant help identify the right schools for my career goals? Absolutely. That's the job of a consultant, is to get to know who you are, what it is that you want, what it is the likes, dislikes, wants, and nice to haves, and helping you then navigate from there which are the schools that you should be applying to. Consultant should be giving you a very broad list of ranges in schools. So what I mean by that is you should have your safety schools all the way to your reach schools that a consultant should help you identify. Now, whether you work with a consultant on all of those or not, it is totally up to you. But they're there to provide counsel, to provide guidance in your selection process, and give you, again, the pros and cons of each of the schools in relation to what it is that you want. My approach with this is to share, essentially, to not necessarily look at the rank, and I know rank matters, but not look at the rank, but really what it is that you are looking for, what kind of culture you're looking to be a part of, and then talk about what are the schools that can meet as much as possible what your wants, just because you have to recognize that there's nothing perfect out there in the world. So they're the must-haves, and then they're nice-to-haves. How do you tailor your coaching to suit individual application profiles and goals? Absolutely. So I do have a curriculum that we go through, and for each one of the individuals I work with, then the customizability of that curriculum is in relation to what it is that they need. So for example, someone is really having a hard time coming up with a goal. Instead of having a one session and discussing the goals in this one session, and then you decide, from there, which process you're going to go through, we will have more than one session to discuss your goals and finalize those, because that is an important component of your entire application. We can't proceed until that is taken care of, because it affects everything in your application, right? So those are, someone may need more hand-holding, others may need less hand-holding, and that's the customizability here of what the person needs. This does not mean, however, that we change the process, because I have a proven process that works, and I want to, of course, make sure that I've gone through all the pieces with you to make sure that you have left no stones unturned. Does a coach cover essay editing and interview preparation in their services? Of course, everyone has different services that they provide. I can only speak for myself, and yes, to both of those. I do provide essay editing, and I do provide interview preparation. Interview preparation is very extensive for me, and obviously the essays as well, but that's a little bit based on timing, meaning if you are, submitting materials that are late, there's only, if the application is due tomorrow, you get the idea there, is you're not going to have a lot of sessions to be able to go through that edit. However, the interview preparation is very, very extensive, so much so that especially for the past 2 years, which is when I've been tracking this, every single client that interviewed reported that 99% of the questions that the interviewer asked we had covered in our preparatory work. So, that's part of my services and what I do provide to applicants. So definitely is included. And final question. Is getting a consultant for a deferred MBA application helpful in networking and connecting with alumni as well? My approach to coaching is that I coach the applicant through all of the components of the preparatory work. And this is, when I applied to Yale, I had done everything that I ask, and everything that I ask my clients to work through, and that means also having conversations with individuals, the representatives of the school, and I coach applicants on how to have those conversations and guide them through that entire process. So yes, a coach should help you do that. If that's something that's important to you, again, you need to really understand what matters to you and what kind of coach you're looking for. Do you want someone who is, just saying yes to you, or do you want someone who is going to tell you the truth of what you need to hear, whether you like it or not? And that's something that only you can answer that question, but look out for those things that you're looking for from a coach. Because that's going to be an important decision. You're going to be working with someone for an extended period of time, supporting you in a very important decision, in a very important component of your career development. So you really want to make sure that you have given thought to what it is that you want, what kind of support that you need, if you need the support, and then doing your due diligence from there. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys find this content helpful, give the video a thumbs up on whichever platform you're watching, and share with your community of individuals who are going through this process, thinking about this process, because it can be helpful for them to navigate the various different perspectives as well. So I will see you guys next week, where we'll talk about the MBA interview preparation for those specifically that are applying in round 2. Thank you again, and have a great week.